Hi, I'm Greg Dell, joined by attorneys Rachel Alters and Alexander Palomara, and we're going to talk about New York Life long-term disability denials. And Rachel, when you hear about these New York Life long-term disability denials, of which I know you've personally reviewed thousands, Alex thousands over the years that we've been doing this, they're one of the biggest companies out there, which means they have the most employees, and they're almost like a factory of disability claims. But with that, they try to standardize the way in which their employees review claims, and you often see common reasons for denial. What's the most popular reason that you see for a New York Life disability denial?
The most common reason I see is when there's a definition change of disability. So when the person's been paid for 24 months for not being able to do their own occupation, then after 24 months it changes to whether they can do any gainful occupation. And I see a ton of denials based on that.
And in terms of any occupation, like it starts with this own regular occupation, does that really mean any occupation? Like some people say, do they think I can just go work at McDonald's, or is it a little bit more complicated than that?
It's more complicated. So the definition is usually based on your education, training, and experience. And if you can do any job, and then a lot of the policies will have an income component to it as well. So, and you need to be able to earn up to 60% of your pre-disability income. So it's not just can you go work as a Walmart greeter.
And then some people along those lines, when you talk about this change of definition, will call and say, look, I'm approved for Social Security disability, which is supposed to be any occupation that I can't perform, yet they're still denying me. And how can New York Life disagree with the Social Security Administration?
They do all the time. The excuse they give is that they don't use the same standards as Social Security, that they review different information. So just because you get approved for Social Security disability is not in any way, shape, or form a shoo-in to getting you approved for New York Life's disability claim.
Alex, what do you see? Change in definition is a big one because it's a different threshold, and most of the New York Life policies do change as opposed to many other policies that stay own occupation. But what other reasons do you often see for a denial?
Well, they're going to say whether they're denying you for the any occupation change in definition of disability or their own occupation. People get denied from the get-go a lot of the times. And the main reason is that they think your medical evidence does not support the contention that you're disabled from your own occupation or any occupation. And what they do is, when someone applies for disability benefits, they don't realize it's their duty to prove their case to the insurance company. So when you apply, the insurance company is going to say, fill out these application documents, sign these authorizations, and tell us who your doctors are. We'll gather the information and review it and give you a decision. The problem is you can rely upon that, but if you do, you're kind of a fool because ultimately it's your duty. If you're going to believe that the insurance company is going to prove it to themselves, that they should pay you thousands upon thousands of dollars a month, every month for at least 2 years or until age 65 or 67, you got to realize they're going to do a half-assed job doing that because they have no incentive to do it. So it's ultimately your duty to prove it to them that you're disabled. So it's very important to gather up all those records and submit it to the insurance company because if not, even if you submit the documentation, their goal is to deny your claim. They don't want to pay you thousands upon thousands of dollars. And what they do is they rely upon these, typically they rely upon these consultant reports. And that's what they typically use to deny these claims.
And what does that mean? So what are the tools that they have available to deny a claim?
So a consultant reports, and they say independent physician consultant. So they go out to these bigger companies like MES or whoever that find them in a quote unquote independent third-party physician reviewer. Now these third-party physician reviewers, most of the time, I would say 99.9% of the time, they're hired by the insurance company. Yes, they're third party, but they're clearly biased. And we see the same names over and over again. The reason why they do is because the insurance company knows that these people, when they give a file for this doctor to review, it's going to be favorable to their goal of denying the claim. So they hire these independent doctors. Sometimes they're of the correct specialty of our client's disabling condition. Sometimes they're just run-of-the-mill internists or whatever it is that has no specialty in our client's disabling condition. And these doctors review the files, the medical records that hopefully you submitted or the medical records they gathered on your case. They review the files, say, I don't think enough's here to prove that this person has restrictions and limitations to the point that they can't do their own occupation or any occupation. So the first thing they do a lot of times is the independent physician consultant. Sometimes they don't even do that. They rely upon in-house medical directors who are clearly biased because they work for New York Life. So you have to figure if New York Life is paying their paycheck, they're going to be more inclined to decide the case in favor of denial because it saves their employer who's paying their paychecks thousands upon thousands of dollars. If the insurance company pays too much money, then they have less money to give to their employees, right? So Sometimes they rely upon medical director in-house reviews. Sometimes it's just nurse reviews, which blows my mind because nurses are great, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the times they don't have enough specialization to know, when someone has a very specialized disabling condition for whatever it may be, they just don't have that training. They might have, they might have treated that person before, but they don't have the level of training that a specialized doctor does have. But they use medical director in-house reviews, nurse in-house reviews, independent physician consultants. Sometimes, typically not from the get-go, but sometimes they'll do an independent medical examination. Well, they'll send our client or a claimant to a medical doctor to be seen in person. Sometimes, very few and far between nowadays, is a functional capacity evaluation, because the insurance companies, they're scared of the results sometimes of a FCE, a functional capacity evaluation, because they don't know what the physical therapist is going to say. I'm sure they use physical therapists that are more inclined to agree with them, but if it says the person can't sit or can't do their job, they can't deny the claim. So a lot of times they don't want to have the person seen in person because they want to rely upon their more biased consultants.
In listening to you go through all the tools they have available to them, it sounds like that they just want to do the bare minimum under the law to come up with an excuse to deny the claim.
100%. When I get a denial letter, if someone calls me, I've been denied benefits, and I see the denial letter, and I go, the first thing I tell them, I go, in this denial letter, all they did was in-house reviews. And even in my appeals, I go, what less could you guys have done? You guys don't want to spend any money on this case whatsoever. Obviously, you want to spend money because you don't want to pay the claim, but you could even hire an outside physician consultant. It costs you $2,000 to do a review. You guys spent no money on this case because you guys obviously are biased and want to deny it, and it kind of shocks me sometimes. But their ineptness leaves the door open for us a lot of the times.
Right. And when people have these denials, I tell them to go ahead and just give us a call, submit a request through our website, send us your denial letter is what we're going to want. So we'll send you an email and ask you to send it back to us, provide you with a free consultation, and immediately let you know what your options are. And we have other videos out there where we would discuss all of those things, but it's really important. We don't charge any fees or costs unless we win these things, and we're offering a free consult. So we've seen thousands of these denials. We're going to give you, a free review, and we're going to let you know. We don't take every case that calls us. We're selective in the ones that we think we can help you with. And if we can't, we'll tell you. But the most important thing is you can't just go out there and just try to appeal this on your own. So give us a call no matter where you are in the country.